What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Financially Free Era podcast by SLP Wealth. I'm your host, Megan, and I've got Sim with me today. And we are going to chat about childcare, college, and raising money smart kids. I realized we have not done an episode about childcare or childcare expenses or saving for college for our kiddos or teaching good money habits. We haven't done an episode like this in a really long time. It was like November of 2024, back on the SLP podcast. So, who
Hey Megan,
better?
what do you mean by our kiddos?
Our kiddos. Well, I thought me and Sim would be great for this episode because we are two pregnant ladies going to be having this conversation. And yes, you did not mishear. I am prego as well. This is
We
my
timed it so
announcement.
well. It's really funny. We're like literally 4 weeks apart, at least our due dates.
I know. When I found out Sim was pregnant, I had a suspicion that shortly after that, I had a suspicion I was pregnant as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, how fun would that be if we were both pregnant at the same time? And turns out, yes, we are pretty much on the dot, 4 weeks apart. Travis had a heart attack almost. There's going to be 1 month of overlap where we're both out on maternity leave, end of this year, start of the new year. My due date is January 4th, and yours is end of November, right? Early
Yeah,
December.
I'm gonna have a Thanksgiving week baby.
Yes. And I could have a Christmas baby or New Year's Eve baby. So, but we're very excited. This is my first. This is Sim's third baby.
My
So,
third baby, my third son. I'm a boy mom for life, and they all prefer their father to me. It is heartbreaking. It is what it is. I was like, can I have one mama's boy? Please let this child be a mama's boy.
yeah. Aw. And I don't know the gender of our baby yet. We are going to wait until birth. So TBD. I think you think it's a boy, Sim. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I did think it was a boy, and I won't say why I thought that, but I could be wrong. And I hope it's a girl because I would love to set up our children and have them marry off into good family.
Yes. What is hilarious is we have a lot of parents, in our team here at SLP Wealth. Your financial advisor has probably had a kid recently. We've got a few folks, and everyone has had a boy in the past 2 years. Everyone.
Yeah,
So there has not been a girl since Travis's girl, right? Out of the planners, I guess you could say, and Travis.
I think that's right.
I think that's right. So it might be due time for a girl, and it might be up to me. We'll see.
We'll find out.
We will find out. But so, yes, I think this will be a fun episode in the sense of like, this is a really important topic. Childcare, the costs of raising a family these days, the costs have exceeded normal inflation rates. So, kind of like the cost of attendance for school, like college education, like the cost has outpaced like a 3% on average increase per year. And it is becoming it has been for a long time, but it's becoming even more in as time goes on, a strain on folks' budget, a bigger financial commitment to have to bring in childcare or have childcare as part of your like line item in your budget. So we're going to chat about that a lot today, talk about some realities, some statistics. And then I wanted to layer in some fun stuff because, talking about childcare costs is not fun necessarily, but we could talk about how that layers into a financial plan, but also how families make it work. And I love education. And, of course, because we do this podcast episode every week, I like the educational part of finance. So I'd love to talk about teaching kids about money from day one. I think that would be really fun because I think finance still to this day is taboo to talk about. It is uncomfortable to talk about. People don't talk about money and they don't learn about money in a systematic way, right? It's not part of every
There's
school
no like,
system. Yeah.
yeah, there's not like a real curriculum. I mean, I know some more schools do have one now, but
Mhm.
when we were growing up, we didn't have anything like that.
No, yeah, we did not either. So it's up to you as the parents to teach your kids, or they will be watching. They'll watch and know. And so we'll talk about some experiences that Sim and I have both had that have kind of shaped our money values, our money behaviors as we've grown up too. Because it's not just about what you're teaching them, like what you're intentionally teaching them, but it's also about how you're representing. yourself when it comes to anything related to money that your kids are watching. So that'll be kind of fun to wrap things up with. But do you want to start with some statistics on childcare? You want to jump into that?
Yeah, so this makes me want to cry too because I'm already paying for childcare for two and I'm about to pay for childcare for three shortly. So we already know the cost of raising a child has skyrocketed, and there's different statistics out there, and obviously it's going to depend on like your geographic location. Are you trying to hire someone more experienced? Are you going through an agency, etc.? Um, but on average, you're looking at about $300 a week if you're sending your child to daycare, or if you're going to hire like a nanny for like an in-home care situation, that's more like 40,000 a year
Yeah.
on average.
40 and these averages are so dangerous because I literally just had a call with folks who live in New York this morning and their childcare costs for a nanny. They have twins as well, actually. There's lots of twins I've met, over the years. But
Something in the water.
yeah, about 52,000 is how much their nanny is going to cost a year, approximately. So it really just depends on what area you're in, but yeah, 40,000 might be a good average.
Yeah.
So, and it's, and if you have multiples, it can make a difference too. But yeah, I think that range, like 293 to 321 per week, was what I was getting from Finance Buzz, which translates into about 15 to 16,000 a year, almost 17,000 a year for one child. Um, Infant care might be a little more pricey. So if you've got to go back to work after 8 weeks, 12 weeks of maternity leave, infant care might be more, could be up to like 700 or 800 a week until they kind of graduate into a more not independent stage. They're still babies or kids or toddlers, but into that, I don't know, what would you call it? The next like age bracket.
Toddlerhood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
when you're talking, but the discount is it's pretty like minimal.
mhm. And this means that a good chunk, like a good percentage of your household income is going to be going towards childcare, one way or another, if both parents are working or working to some kind of extent. There are a lot of trends going on now these days with how this is playing into family life. So we'll talk about some trends and some childcare things that folks are doing to try to kind of hack the expense here. But it kind of equates to, and this is a dangerous percentage as well, but about 10% of the median household income for dual income earners. So 10%, think about 10% of your cash flow, like how much you're making or your net income going out the door to childcare. If you and your spouse are working, that's maybe somewhere to start for some kind of estimate, or that could be as high as 35% for the median household income for a single parent. So it
Let
is
me
a
think about that
bigger,
statistic. I feel like it's
yeah,
more. I don't know. 10%, that's net.
yeah,
10% net household.
yeah, off of median household income. That's from Wikipedia. I wonder what their median
It's fun
household
that
income
Megan
is.
has me doing math now. I think, well, I have twins, so actually that might be right because I just did mine. I'm spending about 20%,
Hmm.
but that's for two. So maybe that's right. Oh
Yeah, and
no, I don't like where
multiples.
this is going. Is that so that means like next year I'm gonna be spending 30% of my income on
Oh my gosh.
childcare.
Well, and
Start a
kids age
GoFundMe.
out, right? They start going to pre-K or they start going to elementary school, where if you're going to a public university, or public university, public school, that is usually free. Or there may be tuition if you're looking at some kind of private school situation. That's a different story. But yes, so childcare costs can really rival or maybe even exceed some major household expenses, even. So, for example, expenses for two children in a center-based care can often surpass what your rent payment is, or maybe even your mortgage payment.
Yep.
And that sometimes is really jarring to folks when they're thinking about planning for the finance part of having kiddos. So, but any thoughts on the stats before we move into how the heck do families make it work? Because that sounds all depressing to start.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of this does sound correct. Going off, anecdotally for us, people we know, and kind of just comparing other statistics. We've seen a lot of, with our clients, like their budgets, their cash flows. So, people are
Hmm.
spending. I think this is pretty spot on.
Hmm. Yep. So, how do families make this work? Childcare is not just a minor line item, right? Now that we're talking about it, it's a pretty significant financial commitment, and it's got to be accounted for in early family planning. So if you're thinking about having kiddos in the future, or if you're in the midst of it, you're not alone. But there's a couple different things that folks can think about on how you can make these things work, how to fit this in your budget. One good thing, and this is what I kept telling my husband when we talked about like when we wanted to start trying, you've got a while before the baby gets here, 9 months to kind of plan, 8 months at least to kind of plan. And that's helpful because if you are someone who's never looked at your budget, never looked at your money situation before, and you're thinking about starting to have a family, or you're pregnant currently, you're expecting soon, like now's the time to take a look at what your money is doing, like what money is coming in, what your income is coming in, and what your expenses are going out. We talk about Monarch Money a lot on this podcast because that's what we use with our clients. It is a great tool for awareness on where your money is going, and it
I
can be a
use it
budgeting
myself.
tool. Yeah, I do too. And it can be a budgeting tool. It's most importantly an awareness tool to understand where your cash flow is going on a month-to-month basis. Because you'll have your fixed expenses that everybody could probably rattle off. Like you know what your rent or your mortgage is, you know what your phone bill is, but do you know what your grocery bill is each month? Do you know what your restaurant bill is each month? What your pet costs are each month? So those things are the variable expenses that we need to get a better idea of, to start to understand, okay, what's going out the door each month and how much is left? Are we happy with what our expenses are looking like? Are we saving appropriately? Are there other goals we need to be factoring in here that are not being factored in right now? And how can we start prioritizing? Because at the end of the day, starting a family, your life is going to change, whether you like it or
Forever,
not. Yeah.
ever.
So what are some things that you don't do as much anymore now that you've got twins and you'll have another one on the way?
We are like so in the thick of it. I know that like there's this book I mentioned a lot, The Seven Principles of Marriage, Dr. John Gottman, and he talks a lot about how like the first 3 years of having a child really put that's like the biggest strain on your marriage. Also, just like your own sense of like personal identity, like
Hmm.
I'm a parent, I'm whatever. Your identity kind of changes, and it can take up to like 5 years for you to kind of feel like yourself again. I think for me, one of the bigger changes was how much I go out and like do things because the kids require so much, time and attention.
Hmm.
So we found like different ways to spend. So like we might not go out to eat as much, but I really love, cooking and like eating nice things. And so we might just like get nicer things at the grocery store and like eat it at home.
Hmm.
That's maybe like our splurge. And I justify it by like, okay, I'm buying this thing and I really want to eat this thing and it's $10 and that's really expensive for a grocery item. But if we were going out, that's appetizers
Yeah, really.
or
Less
drink
could
or
be
like a
less than
cocktail.
appetizers. Could be less than a
Yeah.
cocktail too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I justify. I'm like, so I'm just gonna like eat fun things and at the grocery store. That's what we do right now. We have been trying to embrace the whole like live your life with the kids too. So we like
Hmm.
finally took them on an airplane, which was terrible and challenging, but worth it. Absolutely worth it. And I would do it again. I'm like, it's terrible, but like let's do
You're
it.
realistic.
You have to be realistic with the situation that you're in. It's like you still have to try
Hmm.
to live your life as best as you can, but it is hard. But there's so much joy. I know everyone says that it's like so kind of stereotypical, like it's so much joy, and people complain about how hard it is, but
Yeah.
it's like a good heart. It's like you're working. There's purpose. There's
Yep.
purpose behind it. Like if you've ever had a dead end job, that is soul crushing. You're working just for a paycheck and you're waiting till Friday. But for your kids, there's rewards, like watching them learn language or when they pick up on something. I have a funny one I share with my kids. I have picky eaters, and so I've been trying to get them to eat different things, and I do a lot of praise and encouragement, like "Yay, good job!" And they've started to reflect that back to me. So sometimes they try to feed
Oh.
me the foods, and I'll eat it to model, and they'll be like, "Good job, Mama," and I'm like, that just made my whole week. Like all the tantrums, all the difficult things, just to have that little bit. So um,
Hmm.
I think I went on a tangent because I'm always happy to talk about my kids. But yes, it will change your life. It might change your spending, but it's worth it. And I think there's no right time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the reality too is that it's going to change your spending, but even though you're going to stop doing certain things, it may not reduce your spending. That's something to think about. Because like you were saying, like you may replace it with other things. you're going to have other expenses that you've never had before, like diapers. Like you're not spending money on diapers right now as, a dink household or
Yeah.
a dinkwad household. But you are probably going to go out to eat less because it's just harder with kids. You are probably
Or you're
not
going to do
going,
more takeout.
yeah, or you'll do more takeout. So there's kind of the trade-off. It's probably just as expensive to do takeout. You may be traveling less, but again, you have like diaper expenses. You have different food expenses because maybe baby's taking formula or baby
And you have to
loves
find the right
berries.
one. Baby
Yeah.
might not tolerate certain formulas and you have to like try a bunch, and formula is not
hmm
cheap.
Yeah, and like the supplies of having kiddos, right? So your expenses, that's why it's so important, and I'm drilling this down because like knowing where your money's going is so crucial to understand what changes in your cash flow you can and cannot take, and what sacrifices you may have to make if you're falling in that bucket where, okay, there is literally no room in my budget. How can I make this new expense of diapers each week or like formula each week? How can I make this work? And there's going to be sacrifices. Like maybe we're trading in our car for something that's safe, family friendly, but less of a car payment or less of a car lease if we're leasing. Maybe we are moving to a different area. That's what my clients did themselves. They lived in a higher cost of living area. They moved to a slightly lower cost of living area, but it was also a lot closer to one of the spouse's workplaces. So they're not going to have to hire a dog walker every day, which was a big expense that they had in their budget because they both lived so far away from work that they couldn't run home and let the dog out in the middle of the day. That small stuff like that, like those are things that you might have to think about and make big decisions on to make room in the budget for this new adventure that you're about to go on, right? So,
Yeah, and there may be like small things too you can do. I recommend getting some brand loyalty or like a store loyalty,
yeah.
and then you can stock up on deals and bulk. Like we tried a bunch of places and we ended up finding, this particular diaper that we like, and it's only sold at Target. Actually, now it's at Walmart too. But it was only sold at Target for the longest time, and they would always have these like kind of random deals, like buy three and you get like this gift card for like a certain amount. And I'm like, well, I'm going to end up using that gift card on the diapers the next time. But
Mm-hmm.
like it actually wasn't like insignificant. It would add up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. So brand loyalty, credit card loyalty, like using one card, like taking a look at all of the cards that are out there, zoning in on what their benefits are, what kind of cashback offers they have or discounts they have, and then committing to maybe using that card for our spending to reap all the rewards that it's providing. Um, so things like that could be some hacks on like making room in the budget for this bigger expense. There's also been a trend or I wouldn't say a trend, this has always been around, but there is a reliance on more informal care that folks are seeking and hoping for too. About 1 in 5 new parents will use relatives for childcare, but that's not everybody. So, a lot of
Not
folks,
us. We
yeah, I
don't
was gonna
really have
say,
like a local village, so you end up
yes.
spending more sometimes if you have the means. It's like I just really need like a break, and you have someone come in like outside of childcare time, like someone just going to
hmm
come for the weekend, and like you end up spending more that way.
Yep. Yeah, so some folks don't have that luxury. I knew that about you, Sim, and I'm hoping like on our side of the spectrum, my mom is getting closer to retirement. She's a librarian, and so I'm hoping that she will be able to help with me and my husband's schedule, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, which would be nice. And the other couple days, so maybe another kind of informal way of going about care. Me and my husband both work from home, so we're thinking about staggering schedules, which is something a friend of mine did. Her and her husband do not work from home, but she's a nurse, so they've made the decision they don't want to pay for childcare. They prefer like them taking care of their baby. So Monday through Friday, dad goes to work, and then Friday through Sunday, mom goes to work. So they stagger their schedule throughout the week. So they're both still making income, but they're staggered. So in the one day that they have overlapped, they have a family friend that's watching their baby for the Friday. So there's a little bit of overlap there, but that's another way, like staggering schedules, which is also maybe a luxury. Some folks don't have that ability or that luxury. But these are
Yeah, I'm
just some
thinking about like
ideas.
our physician clients that have to like go to the hospital and go like
Yeah,
you can't bring a baby with you.
right. Um, One thought, something I thought that was like so nice was I did my friend in college did an internship at Chick-fil-A corporate here in Atlanta. Their campus is amazing, by the way. If you ever come to Atlanta, you can tour Chick-fil-A's corporate office. It is very nice. But she worked there for the summer and they had on campus childcare for their company. And Chick-fil-A, they're not going to be the same as every company out there. I know this is kind of rare, but you do want to check out what kind of employer benefits you may have or check out like competing companies, competing firms, hospitals, like what kind of benefits do other places have when it comes to childcare? Do they have on-campus childcare? Do they have very nice benefits when it comes to childcare somehow, some way? Or do they have a FSA dependent care accounts that you could use for some of the tax benefits? We'll talk about those here in a second. But these are some like creative ways. Oh, another one that I was talking about with some friends was I think it's called community childcare, where let's say you have three or four friends, you're having kids around the same time and y'all
Oh,
stagger schedules. Yeah.
you take turns. Oh my gosh, I wanted to do this. I was thinking of moving closer to some relatives just so we could
hmm
like take turns. Like, okay, this is your day with the kids. So like,
Yeah.
do a 4 day work week, but it's like extended 4 days. And then
Yeah.
the fifth day, like you're the designated person watching the kids.
Yep. Yeah. So that's getting more popular. I think that's a pretty cool idea if you can make that work too. So those are just some creative ideas.
I'll just like on a quick note mention a couple of tax things that may be helpful. It's not going to be significant, but there is the child tax credit, which with the OB3 they just increased it. It's 2,200 per child. A credit is a dollar for dollar reduction in your tax liability. So 2,200, is that going to move the needle? Probably not, but that's real money. That's roughly like $200 a month almost. That might help offset some of the costs. So child tax credit, it is subject to income limitations. I think MFJ is 400,000 and married filing separately would be half of that. And then there's phase outs. And then there's also the dependent care credit, which there's a formula, but usually for most people, it's going to be about 20% of your childcare expenses capped on the first. So for most people, it'll be about 20% on either the first $3,000 of expenses for one child or 6,000 up to $6,000 of expenses for two or more children. But the that credit, you can't double dip that credit with some other credits. And so for most people, they won't even get the full amount of that credit anyway. And if you do married filing separately, you also don't get that credit, although
hmm
you can amend your tax return if it makes sense to do so. You can go from married filing separately to married filing jointly and possibly be able to take that credit, but it exists and it's also something.
hmm
And let's see, were there any other credits I was supposed to mention? Child tax credit, dependent care credit, and then there's the dependent care FSA.
hmm
So that is an account. It is separate from like a medical FSA, where for this year you can do a $5,000 contribution. If you file separately, you can do 2,500. Next year, that amount is going to increase to 7,500 filing jointly and half of that for married filing separately. But this is money you can set aside pre-tax and then pull it out and use it for a lot of different types of childcare expenses. It's pretty flexible. There are things you cannot use it for.
hmm
There's a pretty extensive list. You can find it online as far as, but it'll cover most of the things you would expect it to cover as far as like your childcare expenses. Some employers will cap how much you can contribute because those types of plans are subject to discrimination testing. So they don't want, for example, like only their highly compensated employees contributing. So even though next year the max is 7,500, you may find that with your particular employer, you can only do like 5,000 or 4,000, but they're supposed to let you know that ahead of time. But that's still a great way to get a little bit of tax savings on expenses you're going to have anyway.
hmm Yep. And there's the Trump baby account, right? That's coming out. It's
Yeah, I've only read a little bit about those. It seems like it's like $1,000
thousand.
per child, and
Kickstart
I
for college planning almost.
yeah, I guess I don't necessarily understand how they're better than 529s.
Yeah. We'll learn a lot more about those here coming up. We'll do a deeper dive on that soon. But that
Can
is
we
a
get the
good,
$1,000 coming up?
I think we're supposed to. Yeah, I think we're in that like range. It's like babies born 2025 going forward, apparently.
Yeah.
Um, but that leads us into another expense that comes with childcare, or not childcare, but like having kids is saving for their own education, for their own college. And that's something that especially I think a lot of our listeners, our clients are think about. It's top of mind because they have lots of student loan debt, or they did pay a lot for their college education. And so that's something that folks bring up quite a bit. Like, well, how can I balance saving for my own retirement, paying for these expenses, and also factor in starting to save for their future college? And the good news is saving for college when your baby's very young, if you start early, start and create that habit, put that bill in your budget early, it can make a big difference, even if it's a small amount that you're contributing. It doesn't have to be extremely significant. And there's also who the heck knows what education is going to look like 20
I
years from
know.
now, like 15 years from now. It's going to be a very different world. So, not to
It's gonna
say that,
have to be with like them limiting student loan borrowing amounts, like
yeah.
things will have to change.
Yeah, things will certainly change. There's going to be changes to how much you can borrow in federal student loans, which might impact the cost of attendance that schools have. Like that may kind of force them to bring their prices down, or there may be alternative sources of funding like private student loans, which we think is a little more dangerous. But at any rate, education is going to look a little more different. And I think people are going to have to assess the return on investment a lot more seriously before committing to going to school. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Let's talk about how retirement should generally take the lead before we're setting money aside for college. You cannot borrow for your own retirement. You've probably heard plenty of people say that. We've said that before, but you
We've said
can.
it.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
were you
like
gonna say?
you can borrow for college. It's, the current landscape. I'm like, that's a little bit less true than it was when we probably said it last time, but it's
Hmm.
still true. And also like your kids have a choice as far as where they go to school and what they study and what they want to do after they graduate. But for your retirement, there's so many unknowns that you do need to be prepared for that. You need that
Hmm.
flexibility. I as you know, as a financial planner, we're always like goal based and it's always based
Yeah.
on like our clients' goals. But I will say, as long as someone doesn't have like a super strong feeling of like, no, I must pay for my kid's entire education, I feel pretty strongly that people should prioritize their retirement over their kids'
Hmm.
college savings.
Yeah. Financial independence, like your own financial independence, is super important for yourself, of course, but also for your kids. Like, think about it. Because if you didn't save enough for retirement and you have kiddos, you're probably going to be leaning on your kiddos one way or another, like going to live with them or going to like need help for your own care if you didn't save
And
enough, right?
even if you say you don't, that may be true. Your intention may be, I'll deal with it. I'll go, I'll
Yeah.
get Medicaid or something. You raised your kids. They love you. They're going to be burdened by this. They're going to want to
Yeah.
take this on. So, do you want to be I know it's such a terrible question, but it's true. Like, do you want to be a burden to your kids? No,
Yeah.
you don't. And so you think you're giving them this gift of an education, but you're straggling, you're strapping them with potentially a bigger problem when they may have
Right.
made a different choice.
And if you're financially stable and financially independent enough, you can help them with their college experience if it comes down to that. So, because what's inevitable is you're going to want to stop working one day, right? You're not going to work until you're going in the ground. You're just not. You're not going to be able to health-wise, personal life-wise, like whatever the reason. And so, if retirement is inevitable, we should be prioritizing that. The financial independence is the gift to your kiddos because college or education costs, that's not technically inevitable for your kids, right? They could totally decide to go a different route, get a full ride. That would be pretty awesome, right? To a college that you don't have to spend some money on. So go with what's inevitable, and your retirement, like being wanting to be financially independent in the future, that's an inevitable thing. So, rule of thumb here to get started: if you are not saving for retirement yet, do not start saving for college. We need to get your retirement going first.
Yeah.
So, absolutely starting with the bare minimum, which is getting, if your employer has some kind of match, making sure you're contributing at least up to the match to get that money that they're going to pay into your 401k, right? Or 403b or TSP. And then from there, you need to do some math and some real thinking about, okay, when do I want to retire? What kind of standard of living do I want in retirement? And then that can help back into how much you need to be saving for retirement. Is it 10% of your income, 20%, 25%? It really is going to depend on, like, if you're someone who's gung ho about wanting to get done with working at 45 or 50, you're going to be needing to save like 25, 30, 40% of your income to get there. Um, if you love your job, you think you could be there until normal retirement age, maybe the need is not so great unless like you know your spending in retirement is going to be a lot greater than your current standard of living. So there's so many
Well,
little
also,
factors that go in.
you're you may also not have a choice because I've met people that are like, I love my job. I'm going to work until I'm 70. I'm like, that's a cool story, but your body may have something else to say about that, and you may be
Yeah.
forced to retire sooner than you would have liked.
Another thought is if you're saving for retirement, but you're not yet maxing out your retirement accounts or getting up to the threshold that you need to get to that comfortable retirement timeline that is part of your plan, then you need to limit college savings. Not to say you can't until retirement looks perfect, but you need to limit it to some kind of extent to prioritize your retirement first. And college savings goal, like it does help to know what you want to cover. Do you want to cover college or do you want to cover college and grad school? Because you expect them to go be a dentist or a physician as well. Do you want to send them to a school in state, which is going to be significantly less expensive than a college out of state? Or do you want to send them to a public university, a private university? So some of those things you want to think about. And I know not all of them you're going to know for sure. Your kid is obviously going to have some insight or input into what they want to do, right? But having an idea of what kind of cost of attendance are we looking at trying to cover can be helpful. So you can also back into how much you would need to save to have that fully funded, or if you're doing 50% of the funding, like we could do some math off of those numbers, you know? Some fun math, maybe a good example is if you are hoping, let's just say you want to save six figures for your kids' college by the time they're 18, and we're going to use a 529 plan. We'll talk about those here in a second. If you saved at least $280 a month, that could grow to about 105,000 by age 18. That assumes about a 6% return. That's probably, I would say, pretty conservative, 5 to
I think
7%.
it's a little low. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be low. So we could have a lot more than 105 potentially. But $280 a month, that's not crazy. It's not like, 1,000 a month or anything. That could be that's an idea of some math that you can start to run to understand how much you need to start setting aside. And $50 a month, $100 a month is not too small. Like don't think something is too small because it does matter. Contributing what you can now could be great because it's still going to be participating in the market and have time on its side to grow.
Megan, have you thought about what you want to do for college savings for your kid?
I have, yep. I have thought I do want to do a 529. I think that would make a lot of sense. I tell my clients this too, like preach it everywhere that your kid has a 529, like for first birthday parties, Christmas. Like I'm going to be telling everybody, "Hey, my kid, whatever this baby is, girl, boy, I don't have a name picked out either. That's what makes mine a little bit more challenging because you do, Sim, so you can reference your baby boy.
Yes.
Um, but I think, yeah, I want everybody to know about the 529 account because that could be super helpful when it comes to like people wanting to give to your kid for birthdays or Christmas or holidays or whatever. That may not be as fun, right, as the next Tonka truck or the next Barbie, but it is super impactful. Um,
Yes, that's a great point. Don't waste money on toys because right now my son, I have two, obviously. One of them, his favorite toy right now is a box they got from Amazon. We did not throw it out and he crawled into it and he loves that thing. And he will crawl in and he'll basically say like my turn, like my box. And
yeah.
his brother also wants a box, so he crawls into a laundry bin. And so they each have claimed, I'm like, they have toys. We bought them toys, waste of money.
Yep. It's kind of like I love those memes where it's like experienced dog owner because I'm not a parent yet, so I only have the dog memes to reference, but experienced dog owner and new dog owner, and it's like the new dog owner has a picture of their puppy with a ton of toys all around him, and then the other picture of the experienced dog owner has like a stick, a tennis ball, paper, like things like that. That like it's kind of like that. This is what it reminds me of. So. But 529s, they can be a great bucket. Speaking of that, they can be a great bucket to save for college education. You put money in, depending on what state you're in, there is a state tax deduction that you can take. It's not anything crazy, right? It's not something to be like super excited about, would you say, Sim?
It's a little something, something. I mean, I'd be excited about it if I let you know if you're in California, but California doesn't offer a state tax deduction. Their state
Yeah.
taxes are very high. You're probably looking at like, most states around the 4 or 5%
hmm
rate, but that's still something.
Yeah, it's a little something, which is nice. But the big deal is the money that you put in goes in and it grows. You can invest it and it grows tax deferred. And it's tax free if you take that money out and you use it for qualifying education expenses. And the list of qualifying education expenses is pretty broad, which is nice. And if you have contributed, that is a good problem, right? If we put way more in there that we need for your college, your kids' college, great problem to have. There are ways that you can still use the money without having to pay like penalties for using it for things outside of school. You could roll it into a Roth IRA for your child. You can use it to pay up to $10,000 of student loans if that's relevant at all. So there's a couple ways that you can like get money out without having to pay the penalty, which is 10%, and then pay
And
taxes.
for people for whom this is relevant, it's also a great tool for estate planning if you're worried about having a large estate, because that money is not subject to probate, is out of your estate, and then you can be the cool grandparent that like, gives your kid, offspring, their kids a bunch of money for college. But this is a rare problem too. Like we get that question a lot, like people are afraid to overfund their
They're scared,
529.
yeah.
And I'm like, unless you expect like big drastic changes to the, rising college costs, it's very difficult to overfund a 529.
Yep. And you can also transfer it. So if you've got multiple kids, or other immediate family members, you could transfer that account to a different family member. So it's not completely locked and loaded for that one child, which is helpful, flexible. Let's talk about something fun, which is teaching your kids about money. And I think our generation is like, I think the millennials, zillennials, and then what's after us? Gen Z, Gen X,
Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha is what ours are. Um, I think we are going to be more emotionally intelligent than past generations, and I think we are
Yeah.
hopefully going to be more open about money. I think that's been something that a lot of folks have been also preaching. They're aware that financial shame or just feeling comfortable talking about money is a problem. Like I think people know that it's problematic that people don't have the basic financial education.
I think I don't know about other parents. I know for me, I'm waiting for Miss Rachel to drop a video on this subject.
Oh, yeah.
She
So
probably won't, but that'd be funny.
it's, yeah, that would be funny. But I mean, hey, it needs to be taught. I do love that there's more books about money. Like I've been seeing more children books about money or just like currency to some kind of extent, which I think is really cool. So it starts with you. You as the parent, you are the teacher. And your kid's starting to learn about money. It can start with coins, a piggy bank. It could start with an allowance. It can start with like sending them to the store with a certain amount that they cannot spend over. Like I think that's a cool idea. But so let's talk about in ages. So preschool ages, 3 to 5. So your boys are almost in this
They're
range.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
not
two.
quite, but
And I was kind of thinking about this because they're a little bit young. We're still in the stage of like, no, you can't just take your pants off whenever you want. Um, And we're in that like stage where, the tantrums and everything. I'm afraid if I give one of them like a physical dollar bill and he can't use it for what he wants, I think he will just rip it in half. So I want to wait till we get out of the ripping money stage of life. The
Yeah.
coins they'll choke on. So I think 3 to 5 makes sense because you're starting to get into like okay, they have language, they have understanding, they're not
hmm
trying to end their lives. So
Yep. I think 3 to 5. So, and before that could be books, and 3 to 5 could also still be books. There's some cool books about money for kiddos. But I love the idea about physical coins when they're out of being a choking hazard and piggy banks. So there's a lot of cool, fun piggy banks out there. There's like, of course, a traditional one that you have to take the cork out of the bottom and dump the money out or smash it. That's kind of fun, like smash it to get the money out. But there's also ones that count up the money for you. Like when you're putting in coins, it's smart
oh
enough to count
really?
up the money. Yeah. There's
Oh,
some of
that's cool.
those out there, which I think are really interesting. But physical coins, piggy bank, teaching them some of the needs versus wants conversation. This could be with a lot of things, not just with money, but like understanding what is a need, like what do you absolutely need right now? Oh, you need water? Okay. What is a want? Oh, you want that lollipop? That's a want, right?
Yeah.
You could
You know what?
start
Actually, I
teaching
do
that.
have something we've been doing with the 2-year-olds. I forgot we do this. We'll take them to the grocery store with us.
hmm
My husband and I will each take one cart, put one kid in each cart, and we'll split the grocery list in half and meet up at the checkout line. And
hmm
we help, I'm putting in quotes, help. The kids will help us put the items on the cart. And
hmm
then we'll give, if there's no one behind us, because we want to be like obnoxious parents, but usually we're okay to do this. But we'll give one of them like our credit card and have them like pay for it. We'll help
Oh,
them like hold up their little hand and like make the payment, but we're trying to get that correlation between this is stuff and this is how we get stuff. Like this card
yeah.
represents money.
Yep. Yep. Because it used to be like everybody used cash back in the day, but now like everything is pretty much plastic, which
Yeah.
to your 2-year-olds, like the plastic just seems like magic because it's like, oh, I just have to show them this plastic and I get to take anything I want.
Yeah.
But I like that like initial concept that like you have to give something to take these things.
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, the very young stages, there's some small like opportunities there. I think when it gets more fun is when maybe we've got kids 5 plus, getting a little older here, where you bring in some kind of maybe an allowance. Something it can be something super small, like a chore list of things that they have to do each week to get a certain dollar amount. Could be 50 cents, doesn't even have to be a dollar. But that can be cool to teach kids that, hey, you have to earn money too. You're not just given money. You have to earn money, and then what you do with it is also your decision. So, I did not have an allowance growing up. I don't know why, my parents just never really implemented that. But my dad worked in electrical sales, and I learned sales from him, where he said, well, you can make money. And so I learned, hey, I can make bracelets or I can make dolls. I can make lemonade and I can sell it to people and they'll give me money. I'll trade like my efforts for money. So I learned that really early on. I think the very first experience was a lemonade stand at like a yard sale that we did. And I thought that was the coolest thing that all I did was make this lemonade. People would come grab a cup and give me money for it. That was like the coolest back then. So
Yeah.
teaching kids about that would be really cool because it teaches maybe some work ethic, some creativity on like, hey, what could I make to sell to my family members? Or you know what I mean?
I think it's
Um,
also important to note that you're always teaching your kids something, even if you
yeah.
don't think you're doing it actively.
Uh-huh.
I would say for me, I picked up on a lot of the anxious money attitudes around me. I was raised by
Mm,
immigrants. And so when I started working in high school, my first job, 15, 16, I like would hoard all of it. So I wasn't like the kid who would like, oh, I have this cool summer job and I'm gonna like go
hmm
spend it. I would just literally hoard all of the money under
mm,
my bed. Or I eventually got a bank account and it was back in the day when like you would bring a physical check to the bank. Like I didn't know about, I mean, it's not really back in the day. People do that now. I didn't know about direct deposit. So I would like take my
mm,
paycheck and go to the bank and I would cash it and then bring the cash home. And I figured out pretty quickly what I was supposed to do. But yeah, I was so anxious. I was in that like,
hmm
I must save everything phase.
There's a lot of folks who grow up like that too. It's not just like, hey, I was never taught about money, so I overspend or I don't know how to budget. There's a lot of that side of it where it's like I was scared of money, so I'm scared to spend it. I don't know how to assess value and like to budget appropriately and like still save money but spend what I need to spend. So there's some of that too that can be baked in. So my love for Kroger, you know this, Sim. I learned all about coupons from my mom because she would literally get the Sunday paper, sit down in the living room and cut out all these coupons, and we would go to the grocery store. And I think she liked to do this. She would let it all like get run up and she'd hand over all the coupons and we'd watch the number keep going down as we were checking out at the grocery store. And to my mom, that was satisfying. And now, like me as an adult, I love doing that too. I'm like, how much can I cut off of this bill that's full price?
But it only works if you weren't already going to like buy that item. Like you can't
Yes,
buy
yeah,
something just so you can like use the coupon.
exactly. So there's that too. Wants versus needs, right?
Yeah.
Um, or wants and needs versus just like frivolous spending because there's a coupon. So, but yeah, there's things that like your kids are going to pick up on because you're doing them, and having the communication around money, teaching them about money concepts, like I think it's a really cool opportunity as you as a parent, you have a lot of control over. Anything we missed there with teaching?
I think those are the biggies. I think it's just about being intentional and being aware that kids will pick up on things one way or the other. So we can either actively put ideas in their head or they will fill in the blanks themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these money lessons, they don't require big budgets, just consistency, simple things, simple tools, age appropriate involvement, to really lay the groundwork for really good, healthy, lifelong financial literacy for your kiddos that maybe you did not have that you had to learn yourself the hard way. So, um, I think that kind of wraps up our episode today. Thanks, Sim, for joining me.
I'm always down to talk about kids and being pregnant. So
Yep. And thanks for hanging out with us today. Hopefully, you took a nugget or two for your own little nuggets at home or your future nuggets. And have a lovely weekend. We'll catch you on the next one.
Are you ready to unlock financial freedom faster with SLP Wealth? Get high quality, affordable student loan aware financial planning and get the best deal for it anywhere that you're going to find working with your own dedicated SLP Wealth financial planner that is able to give you the best integrated advice across financial planning, investments, and tax, along with all the student loan hacks that you know you need and that you know impact all other areas of your financial planning. The deal you're going to find here is special just for podcast listeners. If you go to promo.slpwealth.com, you can sign up with a great discount off your first month. That's promo.slpwealth.com.